Steve, you touched upon something in regards to how this would affect 2021 or a spring season being put on the table. And I thought Urban Meyer had a great rundown of how he sees the possibilities, which he considers zero of a spring season, in asking college football players to put in all those reps, get beat up during the spring. And he had a really good breakdown. And the first time I've ever heard out of his mouth the 1,000 rep rule in regards to how he treats veteran players in spring practice that have at least 1 year starting experience, and especially 2 and 3 years of starting experience, and how he backs them off. Because he knows that they've proven that they can play, they know the system, and I'm not beating these guys up anymore because they've had X number of reps, and that he keeps track, his staff keeps track of the number of reps over the cumulative career, and that he's only sending those kids out there maybe 3 out of 5 sessions a week, and he just doesn't see how that's possible to expect those kids to be able to turn around in X number of weeks and play another college football season, even if the first one's truncated.
Well, yeah, the wear and tear of the season alone, as it's played in the fall, I mean, there's a lot of guys from Ohio State who weren't lined up to practice in the spring because they had to have maintenance surgeries at the end of after the bowl game, just to get them back where they need to be ready to go for the fall of 2020. So what you're talking about is playing some kind of a season, maybe an 8-10 game season, whatever it is, in the spring, and then maybe a championship decided after that, and then taking 3 months off and starting over again. I don't know. I just don't know how that happens. Maybe you widen the roster and make it 90 scholarship guys or something. I don't know. Just thinking out loud, because you're going to need more bodies is the problem. And as I alluded to earlier, what incentive is there for Justin Fields if, or Sunshine Trevor Lawrence, if one of them's the number 1 player, number 2 player locked for the NFL draft, whether they play another down of college football or not, to break their leg playing, on a snowy field in March, and hope, that they're still going to get drafted in the first round. I think they have to question that. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what direction this takes, and I kind of agree with Urban. I just think it's a non-starter to think that they would play in February, March, April.
Gene said it was like the last resort. If obviously they're going to try to play the season, and then they would look at that. They haven't really discussed it that much in depth. I know Urban, the year Ohio State won a national title, said there was no way they could have played another game after that because they had already played too many. And he is given to hyperbole, but you almost believe it, playing 15 games the way they did there at the end. But yeah, I mean, he's been that 2,000 rep club has been something he has trumpeted. We've all heard it for years and talked to players about it. And back at Florida, he had the circle of trust or whatever, where guys would get breaks and stuff. At Ohio State, it was just, there's no reason for Joey Bosa to continue to abuse this freshman left tackle. He started as a freshman. He started as a sophomore. He doesn't need to be out here, for 2 hours on a spring Tuesday. He can just, get a couple of reps here and there, and it helps the younger guys get ready as well.
Yeah, you either have to play the season now, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to start September 5th. You could push it back to October. Maybe you're truncating the season even a little bit more, but you play it in the fall or you don't play it at all. Spring is not going to work. I've been a big opponent of that since, Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma started talking about it, and some national columnists have really started carrying that banner. It's a foolish notion. It's not good for the welfare of the players. And, you can't sit there and say, well, what about the players? And then you put them in we don't know how COVID is going to react or anything, herd immunity or whatnot. What we do know is having them play a 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 game season, tell them they get 10 days off, and then get your butts back in the weight room to get ready for the next season. We know what the result of that is, and that's going to be a lot of injuries and things that are not good for the welfare for these players. So play it in fall or don't play it at all. And I need a paycheck, so let's play it in fall because I need some football.
The NCAA's chief medical officer last week was on a podcast with Andy Katz and the Pac-12 commissioner, and the subject of spring football was brought up, and he's like, we don't know that spring is going to be any better. What we do know now is we are preparing to play now. So why would we put off what we are preparing for now for something that may be no chance of happening anyway? And I'm with Kevin that the national media that is always trumpeting the players' safety and rights and wanting to play in spring, you're asking them to do something that 2 seasons in 1 year. How is that safer for the players? And I understand that we wouldn't see Justin Fields or anything like that. I don't know that that's the biggest drawback, because the best thing about college football is the way new players emerge. That's my favorite thing about it. So I don't know that that's necessarily the biggest thing. Sure, it wouldn't be any fun. It would be less fun not to have Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields out there, but there's the safety of the players. If that's gonna matter, you can't have them play 2 seasons in 1 calendar year, and not just 1 calendar year, like it's in 10, 11 months.
There are 2 huge forces at odds here, and that would be health and money. For the football fan, it's just watching football. They're not involved in the money, of course, and could care less. They just want to watch football. But I think the Big Ten is taking a huge stand here, and I think it really underlines, to everyone's point here on the panel, the severity of the situation. If the Big Ten plays big boy football, so it's one thing when the Ivy League came out, because they're basically saving money by canceling their sports season, and it's just a completely different deal. It's not the financial consideration by any stretch. When the Big Ten comes out and says we're not going to play Ohio State and Oregon, Michigan, Washington, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, on down the line, and sacrifice all that money, that we could be a few bad declines or upgrades in the curve, however you want to look at it, from really compromising the actual season in its totality.